I'm Guy. I'm the director of our forthcoming production for Kings Langley Players of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was the iconic book written originally by Ken Casey in the early 1960s, followed a year later by the play on Broadway, written by Dale Wasserman, and then finally the legendary movie, the Oscar-winning movie by Milos Forman, starring the legendary Jack Nicholson in the mid-1970s. Since I decided to put this production on, which must be well over a year ago, every time I mention the play, people have shown a lot of interest, and it seems to strike a chord, whether it's them reminiscing about their childhood, but even to a younger generation, it is certainly still has quite a bit of clout and significance, particularly today, actually. The main reason I'm drawn to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is actually the play, which I happened to be in a production in some 23 years ago at the Pump House Theatre in Watford. And although the production had very high production values, a super director, strong cast drawn from various members of societies at that time, it's actually the play itself that left quite an emotional scar on me. And you know, even to this day, down at the Pump House Theatre, when One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is mentioned, it seems to strike A, that chord again, but B, also the power of that production. I feel it's relevant today because although we don't have, on the face of it, the rebel without the cause or the rebel with the cause that we did in the 60s, particularly as they were post-war years, and people were more finding freedom to revolt or question government, etc. This day and age, with technology particularly, or even going for job interviews or fitting into various parts of society, if you don't fit in the boxes that are offered, usually not very boxes, particularly online, even going to see the GP, the first question he asks you is, how old are you, what's your weight, do you drink much? It's the same question you'll ask anybody. And when we start to not answer it the way we should, then you tend to feel yourself as a bit of an outcast. And what I say, although it's not so prevalent having the revolutionary spirit or the wild man, as we have in the play with Randall P. McMurphy, the lead character, who comes in and questions and does more than that, upturns the whole system, or as it's called in the play, the Combine. The story of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is told through Chief Bromden's eyes. He's a native American Indian who has been in the mental institution for many years. He and his fellow inmates are, in most cases, voluntary. They can leave, they choose not to, because they have seemed to be fitted in or being controlled by the system or the doctors and nurses, particularly Nurse Ratched and her team of aides who run the ward, I won't say with a rod of iron, but a very disciplined way. And it seems to have affected the vulnerable not to be able to make decisions in day-to-day existence. Into this environment comes Randall P. McMurphy. He's been in other institutions, and there's a question mark whether he is insane. He comes to the mental institution and then starts to question everybody, questions the nurse, challenges her, empowers the fellow inmates, he befriends them, and without giving too much away, he changes their life. Ken Casey, I believe, was a sort of a writer in the late 50s into the early 60s who he himself called himself a cross between a beatnik and a hippie. Writing novels. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was a novel that he wrote after spending a night or two in an old veterans hospital, and it had such an effect on him, seeing the system that these guys had fallen into, and that's why he wrote it. He did write other novels, I believe, afterwards, but none had such iconic values as One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Well, these are the pivotal characters of the play. Randall McMurphy is the wild man, as I said earlier, challenging authority, challenging the day-to-day running to quite an extreme. Nurse Ratched, the opposite, cool, calm and collective, running the ward with a steely determination, both to the patients and the staff. And the whole play is really about their relationship. And the end, which I won't give away, questions who really is won. Certainly one character hasn't won, but even the other character, or indeed other characters in the play, who's won. The other characters in the play, whether they be inmates or members of staff, are equally as important actually, because they're probably representing, I won't say humanity, but certainly representing us. I think the feel-good factor for the play comes from the sense of empowerment that McMurphy brings to the inmates and the sense of friendship. These were dysfunctional guys that found it difficult even to walk down a street, say words without stuttering, deal with normal day-to-day problems. Once McMurphy comes in, gradually they are much more comfortable in their own skins. There's the feel-good factor. The play, again, another question it leaves, well, the inmates, have they changed? And yes, they have changed, and it'll never be the same again. But the big question is, do they actually ever leave the institution? Which we don't know the answer to, actually. This is the key to it for me, the truthfulness, not being caricatures, being probably just a little extension of what we all are, really, particularly put under stress. Andrew Knight, who happens to be in the play, and was actually in the 1993 production at the Pump House, through his work over some 25 years, has worked in these sort of institutions or environments and still does today. So he was able to bring a lot to the table about repetitive movement, tics, the insecurities, eye contact, flashing around, whatever, and it's been a great help. And the guys themselves, by trying to play it straight, shows the vulnerability rather than being Mr. Looney. The main reason that people should come and see One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is that it's a very powerful piece of theatre, evoking lots of human emotions, particularly actually humour, which is not evident maybe from the film so much, or even reading the book. But there's some very funny scenes in the play, men playing basketball in their underwear, all-night party on the day ward, with two floozies who enter via the windows with copious amounts of alcohol. But underlying all that, it's all about friendship, togetherness, questioning society and empowerment, along with, unfortunately, some rather tragic results. But the main reason for coming to see One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is we've got a very energetic, creative, vibrant cast and crew. We're one of the biggest sets we've put on the Kings Langley stage for quite a while, and for those, they're the main reasons to come and see One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.